Well, I think there's so much development happening across London, and the biggest issue is making places that people want to live and work in. And that sounds really easy because we all go to places where we see something and we say, well, I'd like to live here. But actually creating that from scratch is really, really difficult. And I think that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's all about creating sustainable places that people actually want to spend time at. So, at Paddington Central, it's an office-led scheme, but also, we want to be really careful in terms of making sure that the local residents, the local community groups all feel part of it, and actually, they can all come together and enjoy a place, and that's what we're trying to create there.
I think they are, but I think also in terms of development and the sort of race for numbers for housing, what often happens with the placemaking side, the aspiration is there at the beginning, but often it's value engineered out. So as budgets become tighter and tighter as you move on in terms of trying to deliver on housing, for example, you start to cut corners because that's sort of inevitable in terms of budgets, and that's the hardest part. And it's all those small things in a place where you live which make the huge difference, don't they? The size of a street, the way the retail is managed, and also having places where you can sort of sit and be without actually having to spend any money, I think is really important. But the hardest part, I think, with development and cost constraints is really managing to keep those in right through to the end of a scheme.
No, I think the challenges are the same. I think, at British Land, we are long-term investors into campuses. We've owned Regent's Place and Broadgate for more than 25 years, and when we bought Paddington Central, we had a long-term investment strategy, and it was important to be able to do that because we've spent a substantial amount of money there, and you can't just see it as a day one investment because otherwise your returns just won't look attractive at all. So we view it over the long term, and we think if we get it right, then we will outperform people who aren't investing into places. Success, I think, is measured in a number of different ways. I think as a FTSE 100 business, we have to look after our shareholders. So one of the key drivers will be in terms of value and our total returns against our benchmarks. So that's one thing. I think you can look at rental growth in the area compared to others as well. And then I think you also need to look at things like footfall levels. So, how are you driving footfall, particularly maybe out of office hours? So, in the evenings, at weekends, and how are people moving around and using the site? And then also perception and public feedback. So, at the moment, we're receiving a lot of perception, I guess, a lot of positive comments from a range of different people, be it local agents, be it local residents, be it local office users who are actually seeing it change for the better. And it's really rewarding to be able to see that given the time and money that we've invested into the scheme.
I think measurement is, again, one of those sort of overused words. I mean, you can see it, can't you? You can feel it. You don't need to measure it. It's all about people. If you go to a place and you can see people really enjoying being there and really using it, that's success. It doesn't have to be on a spreadsheet. You can usually see it. I'm thoroughly enjoying it, and I think it's got a very interesting vibe this year as well. There's a lot of talk, about things like Brexit and sort of, a concern. And then, we heard from the guy from Virgin Galactic who just, I think, blew everybody's minds about the possibilities. So sort of been a game of two halves for me, sort of the depressing and then the hugely optimistic.
I must admit, I've only just come for the afternoon session, so but I think it's brilliant. There's a real kind of range of different kind of areas promoting what they're doing, and I think quite easily you become kind of very focused in terms of what you're doing and your work. But it's actually great to kind of walk around and see the variety here.